Hey, I'm NerdChomp. I've made a major change to the level generation in my game, Imago, that completely transforms it, and while the difference may not be immediately apparent, a quick playthrough makes it obvious. Okay, so here's the start, the end is over there. Let's just go this way. I'm doing this with no abilities, so I have only my jump, and I have no climbing, no webs, no flying, nothing. Okay, the finish line is over there. I can see it. I'm getting closer. Again, I can't cross this. I can't scale these. So I just have to go this way. It's like right on the other side of this. I think I just made it. Yep, and there it is. There's the end. Okay, so now this is my old level generation system. I'm trying to make it all the way over there. So again, no abilities, nothing, just this jump. And let's see if I can make it. I don't think I can make that jump. So I'll have to drop down, I think. There's not anywhere else I can go, really. So I'll drop down. And then over here. Can't get up there. This way. I thought I could jump over there, but I can't. Squeeze through here? Nope. Can't squeeze through there. And I think I might be in trouble now. Kind of just stuck in this little chasm thing. I can jump over here, but that doesn't really help me. I'm just getting lower and lower. It's not good. Yeah, I think I'm screwed. During playtest of my Blackthorn prod build, I had one common criticism.
But yeah, overall, I think you have a good game. I think there's, I feel like the game kind of can be a little bit punishing in a few areas. And the difficulty, I like the way that the difficulty scales in for the first several levels, and then it gets really difficult all of a sudden. And I feel like it's only possible to beat some of the levels with certain bugs.
This is an awesome game. It's really fun, sometimes frustrating when the level generation creates situations that you cannot solve with your current ability set.
There's so many decisions in here that are straight up genius, and then there's like just so many ways that you can kind of get screwed and feel unfair. That's kind of the tension that I'm dealing with here. It's all about like fixing the generation and making sure that there's always fairness, basically. That's really hard. That's a hard step.
And that's the step I'm trying to solve. I want the generated levels to always be fair. The height of the platforms of my levels used to be completely random within the constraints of the level difficulty, but this created many impossible obstacles for the player that were impassable unless you had specific abilities. And while this encouraged players to prepare for later levels, it also created a very frustrating situation if players didn't have those abilities. I want to punish the player for not properly preparing for those later levels, but I don't want to completely halt their progress. That, in my opinion, is too punishing. Instead, I'd rather guide them down a more difficult path that's less rewarding, that still makes it possible for them to reach the end. The solution I came up with still allows the levels to be random, but they are now always completable, even without abilities. So how did I achieve this? The easiest solution was to always generate a straight, flat path from the start platform to the end platform. But this makes things a little too easy. A straight path would be extremely obvious, and it would naturally funnel the player towards the end without encouraging exploration. Instead of a straight path, I can make a preset winding path, or even a few preset paths. And while this makes it less obvious, the windiness becomes trivial once the player learns the patterns. And another problem this doesn't solve is that if you wander off the path, the rest of the level is still completely random, so the player can still stumble into an impossible situation that blocks them off from getting back to the main path. So how do I solve these problems? My answer was to create a maze. If you look at a maze, particularly what's called a perfect maze, by definition, a perfect maze has exactly one way to get to every spot of that maze from any other spot. Nothing is blocked off, so you can never get stuck. This is exactly what I need. But how do I generate a maze? There are lots of types of maze generation algorithms, and I considered a few of them. The Aldous-Broder algorithm can generate completely uniform mazes. That means that there's no bias to the randomness at all. The way it works, It basically just picks a random starting cell and then moves in a random direction. If that direction has not been visited yet, it opens the maze wall. If it has already been visited, it does nothing. And then it chooses another random direction. It repeats this until the maze is complete. The downsides to this algorithm is that the generation time is unpredictable since there is no bias towards the unvisited cells. That means that it can take a very long time to generate a full maze, which is not ideal for a game. The Sidewinder algorithm was attractive because its rules for generation were simple. It generates the maze row by row, following a set of rules to open walls, and the benefit of this algorithm is that the row by row generation allows you to potentially extend the maze indefinitely at runtime, if you want to run through an endless maze. But the Sidewinder algorithm does generate shorter paths, whereas I prefer the long windy paths of some other mazes. And the maze that it generates is also trivial to solve if you run it backwards, because it never creates backwards facing dead ends. So while the Sidewinder algorithm was simple, I decided I needed something better. I strongly considered Prim's algorithm, and even implemented it into the engine. Prim's algorithm starts at a random cell, and then it chooses a random unvisited neighboring cell, opening the wall in that direction. Then it randomly jumps to a different already visited cell, and repeats the process. If all of the neighboring cells have already been visited, it marks it as complete and removes it from the pool of visited cells that can be randomly jumped to. It repeats this until all of the cells have been marked complete. I really liked this algorithm since it had a consistent generation time, and while there is technically some bias involved in the generation, the maze it produces is pretty decent. But the paths it carves out are still a little too short for my liking. To produce the longer windy paths that I wanted, I turned to the recursive backtracking algorithm. This algorithm again starts at a random cell, and then moves to a random unvisited neighboring cell, opening the wall in the process. Then it continues from that cell, and chooses another random unvisited direction. It keeps doing this until it reaches a dead end, and once it hits the dead end, it backtracks through the path it carved out until there's another unvisited neighboring cell it can choose, and then it carves out a path in that direction. This process continues until the algorithm backtracks all the way back to the starting cell. The maze it produces is exactly the type of maze I want, and I thought it would be perfect for Imago. But how do I use these generated mazes in my levels? If you think of each platform as a cell in the maze grid, I can assign each platform as either a path or a wall. The platforms assigned as paths will be limited in their height differences, and they will always be lower. This means that they will always be traversable, even without any special abilities. The platforms assigned as walls will have no limitations to their randomness, and they can also generate gaps in the map. If you have the right abilities, you'll be able to traverse these wall cells and access shortcuts. But wherever you are on the map, you can always get back to the main path, which always provides you a way to reach the end. Traps will be more likely to spawn on the path, and collectibles and resources will be found off the path on walls. So even though it is always possible to complete the level from the path, it will be more difficult and less rewarding. This means that the player is incentivized to wander off the path if they have the appropriate abilities to do so. While modifying the randomness of the platforms, I also adjusted the distribution of the randomness. There are many ways to think about randomness through data and probability, and a great way to learn more about data and probability is with the sponsor of this video, Brilliant. Brilliant has a wide range of science, math, and programming related courses to help you broaden your knowledge and learn new skills. Brilliant takes a hands-on approach to learning. Rather than reading from textbooks or watching lectures, Brilliant uses interactive examples to test your understanding as you go. It doesn't simply rely on memorization. Instead, Brilliant focuses on critical thinking and problem solving. This style of teaching makes learning a new topic both fun and engaging. Personally, since I'm making a roguelike, which involves a lot of randomness and probability, I've taken an interest in their data analysis courses. They use lots of visuals to help me understand some of the more obtuse topics of data. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/nerdchomp, or click the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thank you again to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. So why did I want to change the way randomness is distributed? The random float node in Unreal is uniformly distributed, which results in a flat look to the overall level. All of the peaks are at the same height. What would be better than uniform distribution is normal or Gaussian distribution. Normal distribution produces a nice bell curve of results. Unreal doesn't have an integrated way of implementing normal distribution, but I followed this video by Johannes Radke, which uses the polar method to convert the uniform distribution in Unreal Engine into normal distribution. So you get a good spread of medium heights, and it tapers off at the ends with a few outliers along the edges. In terms of the platform height, this results in a more dynamic looking shape for the landscape, with the occasional tall spires and deep pits. And this is the new result of my new level generation system. I think it looks much better, and it adds value to the gameplay itself, makes it a lot more fun to play. I've been making lots of changes to Imago since I first revealed it, and many of you have asked if you can play the original Blackthorn Prod competition version of the game. Enough people have asked that I've decided to put that version of the game up on itch.io for free. A link to that is in the description. Keep in mind, this build was made under time crunch, and there are many known and unfixed issues in it. Mainly that the game's RNG can make things either really easy or frustratingly difficult. The UI is clunky, and there's some jankiness to the game. This was the version of the game I submitted to Blackthorn Prod for round 3 of the competition, and I have not changed this version since the competition ended. But I still wanted to release it, so head over to itch.io and enjoy. And if you want to continue following the development of Imago, you can subscribe to this channel. Thanks!